Chris, a young man thrilled to celebrate his first paycheck, takes his mother to a fancy dinner. When his boss mocks his modest choices, the night takes an unexpected twist, leading to a confrontation that leaves the boss frozen in shock. "Hey Mom, I might be home a bit later than usual today." One morning during breakfast, I mentioned this. My mom, who was sitting across from me and starting on her toast,
Oh, really? Do you have an after-work meeting or something?
she asked. "Not exactly." When I hesitated, she pushed for more.
Come on, just tell me what's going on.
She's always been the type who doesn't let you dodge a question. "I'm thinking of picking up a new necktie. I'll stop by the store on my way home." As expected, my mom had something to say about that.
A necktie. Didn't you just get one recently?
She's not wrong. After a lot of hard work and dreaming about it for so long, I finally landed my first real jobs. When I landed the position, I got all the basics: necktie, shoes, and a suit. But I didn't exactly splurge. I picked up a discounted suit, shoes, and a necktie that seemed good enough. The necktie in particular was just a budget buy. I'm not really into fancy accessories or fashion, so I thought it was fine. The necktie looks plain enough that you wouldn't guess it was cheap. But my boss mentioned something to me. He said if you wear cheap-looking stuff, clients might not take you seriously. It's better to invest in something of quality. Apparently, my current necktie isn't cutting it. I explained to my mom why I was planning to get a new one, but I could already predict what she'd say.
What's that? You don't have to listen to everything your boss says. It's not like you're using something dirty or an ugly tie. Who cares if you're using something inexpensive? If you're going to spend money on that, there are better ways to put it to good use.
My mom isn't stingy by any means. She's always been like this, even when I was a kid. But if I really wanted something, even if it was just a toy, she'd make sure I got it. However, if my reasons were vague, like because my friends have it or it's trendy, she wouldn't buy it, saying there was no point. That's just how she is. She really values money. Once she's made up her mind like this, no amount of arguing from me will change it. Honestly, having been raised by her, I kind of feels the same way, which is probably why I'm not great at convincing her otherwise. "All right, I'll hold off on buying a new tie." I said that and headed off to work like usual. "Hey Chris, you're wearing that cheap tie again? I thought you will get a new one." That was my boss, Andrew. He is in charge of training new hires like me. He's the one who suggested I get a new tie in the first place. Actually, I decided not to go through with it. Andrew looked surprised. "What? Why did you change your mind? Are you really going to keep wearing that cheap, boring tie?" he said while looking at my tie. "Well, it just seems wasteful since I just bought it," I replied, and Andrew chuckled. "Can't afford a new one? I can tell you're pretty thrifty. Must have grown up in a poor family, huh?" I forced a smile, trying not to let his words get to me. "Yeah, something like that. Just trying to be smart with my money." I laughed it off, but to be honest, Chris's jokes are never funny. This condescending attitude isn't something new either. Whether it's calling me short, boring, or anything about my appearance, or treating me like a poor person and laughing about it, like today, it's a daily occurrence. That's why I considered buying a new tie, just to shut him up. But in reality, I don't even want it. After hearing what my mom said, I lost the urge to buy it just for Andrew's sake. What really gets under my skin is when Andrew makes sarcastic remarks about my family. I don't usually share much about my upbringing with others, but I let my guard down at a company party after a few too many drinks and ended up telling everything. Before I knew it, even Andrew knew, and he started making snide comments about it. It's about how I lost my real parents and was raised by my stepmom. The mom I have now is the woman my dad remarried. My real mom was always sick, and apparently she passed away when I was born. My dad raised me on his own until I was 8. Then he got remarried, and the three of us started living together. It was my first time living with someone I could call mom. At first, I was nervous, but from the beginning, she treated me with both strictness and warmth. Because of that, I think a bond was formed between us that feels no different from that of a real parent and child. Life with the three of us was very enjoyable, but it didn't last long. When I was in high school, my dad passed away from an illness. Of course, I was sad, and it took time to recover. But I never once thought that my upbringing was unfortunate or miserable. Even though our time together was cut short, I knew I was blessed with a loving family. After it was just the two of us, Mom became even stricter. She was especially adamant about teaching me the value of money. So by the time I was in high school, I had a pretty good understanding of how to manage it. I chose to start working right after high school, taking an entry-level job to gain experience while others were off at college. Sometimes I felt envious of my friends, but I never regretted the path I chose. I believe that my mom taught me how to secure happiness for myself and the people I care about in the long run. But Andrew doesn't seem to see it that way. Wow, Chris, you've really had it rough, huh? What's there to look forward to when you weren't born with a silver spoon? It must sting knowing you're stuck with a lower salary just because you didn't go to college. But hey, I guess that's what happens when you're raised by a single mom. He thinks my life's miserable and loves to throw those sarcastic digs at me. I know I should just ignore it, but it still gets under my skin. That's what my days were like. Then, I finally got my first paycheck. I already knew exactly how I wanted to spend it. I was going to take my mom out for a nice dinner. This was my first real job, earning real money. I wanted to use that money for the mom who raised me all these years.
Don't spend money on me. Save it for something important.
She said exactly what I expected. So, I explained to her why this meant so much to me. After a moment, she finally gave in and said,
All right, but this really has to be the last time, okay?
with that, she agreed to come with me. Over the years, she had provided so many meals for me with her hard-earned money. It was a little embarrassing to treat her for the first time, but it made me incredibly happy. The place I chose was an expensive steak restaurant with great reviews online. When we arrived,
This place looks so expensive.
she said, surprised. It's the first and last time, right? I had to pick a place that would truly show my appreciation for you. I had no intention of making it the last time, but I said that to convince her. I think she was genuinely pleased. We were escorted to private room and served a course of high-quality steaks and sides. The taste was, of course, amazing, and the presentation was beautiful. Everything was a first-time experience. Seeing my mom's happy expression made me feel so joyful too. When dessert was the only course left, I left the room to go to the restroom. And that's when I ran into an unexpected person. Oh, Chris. Andrew. I never imagined I'd run into my unpleasant boss at a place like this. I tried to avoid interacting with him. I decided to just give him a brief hey and keep moving. What's a poor-looking kid like you doing in such an expensive place? You're way out of your league here. Andrew said this with a laugh. The way he joked about it made it even more annoying. I thought that in my head, but if I could say it out loud, life would be much easier. Maybe you're right. I got my first paycheck, so I thought I'd treat my mom. Maybe I did stretch my budget a little. I said it with a forced smile. Even though his words stung, I kept up the smile, but it only made me feel worse. Stretching is putting it lightly. Living beyond your means is just going to make things harder for you, so you might want to rethink that. Honestly, I'm surprised someone like you even got hired at a company like ours. But don't expect any promotions or raises anytime soon. With your cheap tie and small-minded attitude, you're not exactly leadership material. Who would want to follow someone like you? I. I had so much to say, but I couldn't find the words to argue back. Is it really so important to surround yourself with expensive things? I'm trying to succeed in my own way, but is that so wrong? As I stood there, unable to say anything, Andrew continued, "See, you've got nothing to say, right? Someone like you, who belongs at a cheap diner, should just hurry home to your single parent, poor life." He said this and laughed. Just then,
You seem to have a lot of confidence in yourself. But just how wonderful of a person do you think you are?
I heard my mom's voice coming from the back of the room. "Mom." Just as I stammered this out, Andrew smirked and replied, "Well, let's see. I've had both of my great parents by my side since I was born. I attended prestigious schools all the way through university. Well, I aced every class, was the student council president, and they even let me give the welcome speech when I started here. But hey, I guess that's just my life. Honestly, comparing me to Chris is like comparing a first-class experience to a backyard barbecue. Our worlds are so different, it's almost laughable." Watching Andrew speak with such a smug look on his face, I thought he must be incredibly confident in himself. But right after that, my mom completely shattered that confidence.
I'm more impressed than I thought. I'm really surprised.
Despite her words, my mom's expression was colder than anything I had ever seen before. I was shocked by that. But Andrew, who couldn't see her face, seemed pleased with himself and, well, of course, "I'm a fortunate person after all," he said. Then my mom replied.
I think you misunderstood me. When I said I was impressed, I meant I'm amazed that you could be so hopelessly deluded.
She said it so bluntly. "Huh? What do you mean by that? Are you just being a sore loser?" Andrew replied with his usual confident smile, but at that moment, my mom stepped out of the private room. When Andrew saw her, he looked absolutely stunned. "What? You are?"
Oh, so you remembers my face, huh?
It's no wonder Andrew was shocked. My mom is the biggest shareholder and the most influential person in our company. No way. Andrew couldn't hide his surprise, but my mom continued speaking without mercy.
I've heard all about how exceptional you are. But have you noticed that everything you mentioned was something your parents gave you, or just surface level achievements? How much of your life have you actually thought about, chosen, and acted on your own will? Wearing nice things can be valuable to some people, but assuming that everyone values the same things is a sign of narrow mindedness. There are many different people in this world with different values, and what each person thinks is good varies. Who would want to follow someone who can't understand that and insists on imposing their views on others? Instead of looking down on your coworker based on their appearance or background, you should reflect more on your own character.
Actually, the company I work for belonged to my mother's father, my grandfather. After he passed away a few years ago, my mom became the largest shareholder. But as you can see from how strict she is, it's definitely not the case that I got into the company through connections just because I'm her son. Having watched her up close as her son, I was determined to work for this company. And to make that happen, I studied hard and did a lot of work, earning my place here on my own. Well, even though I say on my own, it would have been hard to make that decision alone as a high schooler. So it was a huge help to have my mom supporting me from nearby. Still, it was the first time I'd ever seen my mom giving advice to someone at the company. She clearly expressed to Andrew what I couldn't put into words, even though it was weighing on me. I want to be the kind of professional who can clearly express my thoughts when it matters. That's what this experience made me realize. After that, Andrew couldn't find the words to respond and ended up walking out. "Thank you, Mom." When I said, my mom replied.
I'm sorry for butting in. But what I said earlier is something I want you to remember as well. Wearing expensive things can make anyone feel important and boost their confidence. But that confidence is only temporary. It's not true self-confidence. Because if you were to lose those possessions for some reason, you'd be left with nothing, right? That's why I think it's incredibly important to live in a way that allows you to affirm yourself through your own thoughts and experiences.
My mom's words carried a weight that I couldn't ignore. Growing up, both of my parents worked hard, and while we were never in need, my mom was always careful with money. I was surprised when I learned that the money she meticulously saved wasn't for us. It was for those who needed it more. Why donate instead of buying me more toys? I wondered as a child. But now, I realize the depth of what my mom was teaching me. Understanding why she was so mindful with money only deepened my respect for her. I aspire to be someone who embodies those values, and one day, I want to lead with that same wisdom and compassion. Even if there comes a time when my mom is no longer with me, I want to carry her lessons forward. For now, I'm grateful for the chance to keep learning from her for as long as I can.